And good afternoon. A beautiful, beautiful day in Orlando. No doubt about that. We continue to ask the experts all weekend long. It is a pleasure doing this. We have several hosts that bring these shows to you Saturday and Sunday, and I'm delighted to be able to be part of that cast of characters. Hey, if you've got a question for the BCN Law Firm, it's easy. 855-297-9696, 855-297-9696. Text us at 21232. 21232. The way you do that, get your smartphone out, go to the area where it says messaging, and just put in 21232, and then ask Wade Boyette a question. Wade Boyette, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing wonderful. I was doing a lot better when I walked outside to see how beautiful it was today.
Isn't it perfect?
Oh, it's amazing.
The one thing that News 96.5 does not have that maybe we can arrange, kind of like NBC has, where they take the show outside some mornings. If there was just a way that wall could move and we could just be outside.
Oh, well, what I learned at the Home and Garden Show last week is you can actually have portable microphones. All we have to do is a battery pack on the side, one of these, and we can go for a little walk and talk and have a great show. Well,
Tim could follow us in the News 95 mobile or something. I'm not sure how we'd work that out. And I don't know how Luis, the photographer, would handle it. But anyway, these shows are on YouTube, and it's nice to be now on camera and be able to appear before the camera. We won't delve into why we couldn't before. But anyway, it is a great feeling to be back with Wade Boyette and great conversations along the way. We had Heath Nalos with us last week. When you hear BCN Law Firm, folks, that stands for Boyette, Cummins, and Nalos, okay? And when you say those names around Central Florida, if you've been here, like I moved here in 78, and some of those names were already the names synonymous with the growth, the quality growth of Central Florida. And that's back when everything, as far as you could see, Wade, was all oranges, right, buddy?
It was amazing. You go up to the Citrus Tower in Claremont, and all you could see is orange trees. And now all you see are beautiful rooftops.
Mm-hmm. I don't see an orange tree out near Claremont anymore. They're gone. But that was once the economy. Now the economy is industry, health, computers, tourism, and just the infrastructure that has been set up since that magical year of 1969 when Disney first came to town. Boy, I don't think they envisioned anything like this now.
I know. I'm looking forward to that Orlando Eye opening.
Yeah.
That's going to be pretty exciting. I've had the pleasure of being on the London Eye. And it's just a treat. I can't wait till some tourists come here and they can get on our Orlando Eye and check out how beautiful our city is.
I wonder if you'll be able to see the ocean from there.
I could.
They say it's the highest point in this area, higher than the Sunbank building, when you're at the top of that thing.
You should be able to. And if you can't see, if that's not high enough for you, then go over to Claremont and climb up the Citrus Tower.
Yeah.
That's the highest point in Central Florida.
I love that. There you go. Okay, what is going on law-wise this week? Who's been knocking on the door?
A lot of things. This week, I spent a lot of time in our new office up in the Village.
Yes.
And just absolutely just mesmerized how busy that place is and all the things that are going on. And, luckily, I had a chance to meet with several new clients and go over things that they had done in the past and new ideas that they had. And one of the things that I saw, common errors that I saw over and over, are a lot of my clients, they did take the initiative. They went and met with an attorney, or on their own, they created estate planning documents. They would go in, they would prepare a trust if a trust was necessary, get their will done. But one of the things that I consistently saw wrong is once they signed the trust document, they didn't follow up with making sure those instruments were funded correctly. And what I mean by funded correctly, that the assets were transferred and titled properly so that the documents could do what they were set out to do.
Does the average person, and I consider myself the average person, do they think that just because I created a trust that everything I own is automatically in that trust? Is that kind of the mental perception we're working with here?
That is the mental perception. A lot of people feel that once they sign the legal document, I've signed my trust document or I've signed my will, that's the end of it. They've done everything they need to make sure that their assets will pass efficiently, effectively, and exactly the way they set it out in those documents, which is not the case. I always give the analogy is when I create a trust or an estate planning document, it's like me buying them a nice new car. But if we don't put fuel in that car, it doesn't run.
Yeah.
If I don't put the assets into that trust or title assets properly, it's just not going to run properly.
Yeah. You got this. You're creating them a big storage shed, a platinum storage shed, But until you put that stuff in it, the heirs aren't going to get it. They're going to get a storage shed.
Well, and I asked the client, why do you do estate planning? Clients always, my neighbor has a trust, or I was told I need a will or a trust. Most of the time, there's several reasons you do estate planning. One, you want to control where your assets go. You can control where your assets go through a will or a trust. You want to control not only where they go, but how they go and when they get there. And that's usually done by creating some type of testamentary device or scheme where you actually lay out the roadmap after you pass away. But one of the things that I hear consistently when I meet with clients is, I want to avoid cost. I don't want my family to have to go through probate. I don't want to have to spend the money necessary to hire an attorney or a law firm to take me through probate and go through the time that it takes. So what I tell them is, well, you've done half of what you need to do. You've created the document. But unless you transfer those assets adequately into the trust or title things properly, you haven't done what you need to do to avoid probate, save costs, be efficient. And I'll go through some examples, some common examples in a few minutes, Rob, that that I guarantee a lot of our listeners will go, wow, I didn't do that. That's something that I've missed, or I didn't know I should have done that.
All right, we've got a text here, and this is very interesting, and I think it's also interesting for your new clients up around the villages. If I have a reverse mortgage, will I have to vacate my house when my husband passes away, since the deed is in his name?
Is it your homestead would be the question that I have. Because if it is a homestead, you should not have to vacate the home because you have a homestead interest in that. Now, generally, when a person is married, and another question I would did they get married after the reverse mortgage was taken out? Is it a new spouse? That would make me go one direction. But if it's something where the reverse mortgage was taken out while they were married, the spouse should have signed the reverse mortgage. So a couple of things I'd need to know, but you probably should not have to move out, and you don't have to move out as long as you can pay the reverse mortgage company back. I mean, reverse mortgage doesn't mean you have to. You just have to satisfy the reverse mortgage if you want to stay.
All right, so if you need to follow up on that, texter, please call the offices of the BCN Law Firm. They're always ready to give you a few minutes of free consultation, and maybe you can come down to the office and talk to them, and they can give you some direction. Offices now, let's see, Winter Park, Claremont, Lakeland, and the Villages. So there's one very close to you wherever you are with the new Beltway system, and the number would be 855-LAW-2020, 855-529-2020. And as I mentioned, those offices are convenient for you. Okay, so if you're near Winter Park, if you're near Claremont on the west side, maybe you're in Lakeland on the south side, or if you're up in the Villages, which, as Wade pointed out, if you have not seen growth, and I mean unsurpassed growth anywhere in the world, it reminds you of the California Gold Rush days, you need to drive up to Lake, Sumter, and Marion counties and just see collectively what all those communities are doing together. Wildwood, Ocala, Bellevue, Eustis, Tavares, Mount Dora. Well, 400,000 of you are in Mount Dora this weekend, right. So you're kind of getting a little gist of it. But it is amazing. It's just amazing, the positive growth up there in the economy.
It is unbelievable. One thing, too, if the person who texted in would like to call on the show, that'd be a great topic to follow up on. So if they would want to call in and give some more details, I'm sure a lot of additional listeners have questions with reverse mortgages, and we can go over those. And you don't have to use your real name. You can just say that you're that person's sister and that you happen to know the intimate details. 855-297-9696, 855-297-9696 if you'd like to call us up. If you want to text us, 21232 on the recipient line of your smartphone app. If you have any questions about that, ask the first kid you see. They'll be able to walk you right through it. Huh? It's amazing. Rob, last week I met a client in our Winter Park office. And I love going to the Winter Park office because I always spoil myself and go and eat down on Park Avenue or go to one of the nice restaurants. But what I'm finding is when I go over to the Village office, I can spoil myself. There's amazing restaurants over there. It's amazing what it has to offer. And, people, I was one of those that thought if you go towards that direction, it's all old people.
Not anymore.
No, it could be one or two things. Either I'm getting older or they're getting younger, because I went to the restaurants and it was young adults.
I think the average age when I first moved to that area was somewhere in the late 70s and early 80s. Don't quote me, folks. I'm not an official spokesman for anybody. I just lived there, okay? I'm just a resident. But now I think the average age is way down in the low 60s because arguably there's a lot of people who now buy property in Lake Sumter, Marion counties to work in Leesburg, to work in the Villages, to work in Spruce Creek, to work anywhere on that corridor. But if you have banks and you have schools and you have a giant medical community, you got to have practitioners. Right. And some of those are 19 and some of them are 90. But there's a tremendous, tremendous growth area there.
Right. And that's why I feel blessed. If I'm bored in one area of Claremont, I don't want to go in and be in that office. I can head over to Lakeland, which has so much to offer and it's unique.
Great area.
It's nice having the different offices to go meet with clients.
Well, and it's so convenient for them because I know that the reach of News 96.5 is a 100,000-watt radio station. So basically, it's almost as far north as you can go in Florida and basically south down around, I don't know, Lake Okeechobee or something. But you're getting all that thing. So if they're down there, they can go to Lakeland. Right. If they're up there, they can go to the Villages, and I'm very, very happy to have been part of your getting that office space up there. I'm kind of proud of that.
Well, you're one of the big reasons for that.
It's I kind of have the key to that door of those office buildings anyway on Highway 466. But it's such a great area, and it's a mixture of private enterprise and the different communities that have been planned up there. And it's not just all the villages. You got Spruce Creek. You got the great places up in Ocala on top of the world, which is just giant. And you got Harbor Hills down on the lakes. I mean, it's really a great community. So the BCN Law Firm is no stranger to that is what I'm trying to get at. When you were growing up around here, you were running those hills.
It was amazing. I was actually either hunting or camping or fishing in most places that are subdivisions now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And the thing I'm trying to bring to the table is the Boyette, Cummins, and Nalos, they all came up around here, so you know everybody, right, and you know the people in the legal system here in the counties, and I think that really accounts for a lot. We're going to take time out. Again, we invite you to call. If that reverse mortgage question set off a lot of cool questions because it is something a lot of people don't understand the ramifications after you get the money. 855-297-9696. Text us at 21232, 21232. We will be back right after three big things you need to know. We are asking the experts. This is the BCN Law Firm, BCN. That's right, Boyette, Cummins, and Nalos. They are right there in, you got all these choices, Claremont, Winter Park, Lakeland, and the Villages. 855-LAW-2020, 855-LAW-2020. And by way of the internet, BCNLawFirm.com, BCNLawFirm.com. These shows are archived on YouTube. So if you want to call the show and ask Wade Boyette, we are live today. It's a beautiful, beautiful Sunday. Super Bowl football is way behind us. Now there's men walking around like zombies with nothing to do. They're just nuts. They're just like, I don't know what to do, but I don't want to go to the mall. 855-297-9696. Text us at 21232. The reverse mortgage question brings up an awful lot of questions, and that is whether people are for them or against them. Again, I have to go back to, if it's a real estate transaction, find a lawyer.
Yeah, we do a lot of reverse mortgages in our real estate department. Robin, I sit down, I've had this conversation with my parents, is a reverse mortgage right for them? And there are situations where reverse mortgages can help. If you need cash flow, if your income levels are such where you've got equity in your home and you would like to do some things you haven't done and then increase your cash flow, it may not be a bad idea. What we can do as a lawyer or as a law firm is sit with your mortgage broker and let's just walk through how it's going to impact you both now, because it may have a short-term positive result, but a long-term negative result. Let's look at all of those. Let's walk through it.
Mm-hmm. And there are so many ramifications, like that one caller brought up. there's so many questions. Were you on the deed? Were you not on the deed? Were you part of the reverse mortgage? Did you come in after the fact? Are you homesteaded in there? I mean, there's a million questions that can come up with something that arguably is a pretty good program now that they've cleaned it up. Chuck is on the line. Chuck wants to talk about a trust, as we were talking about before the break. Chuck, you're on the air with Wade Boyette. Go ahead.
Hey, Wade, what is the length of time to get a trust done when we've got an 85-year-old who's sort of developed bad health all of a sudden? How fast can we get one done?
Oh, we can have one done within a day or two. It's just a matter of, one, getting with the client and, making sure that the client still has the mental capacity to do what we need them to do. And if they have the mental capacity, we have a list of their assets, and they know what their objectives are, and we can get clear answers on how they would like their estate to go and who they would like to be in charge. Once I have the information, it's a matter of just drafting the documents, and we can get that done. If it's something that needs to get done quickly, have it done the next day or the day after.
Okay. Do we notify the all the different asset holders, or is that something that your firm does? Either
way, what I tell clients is, we're a little bit different in law firms. If I can have you do things that you can do on your own so you don't have to pay guys like us to do, I try to do that. Mm-hmm. I like you saving money. But there are certain times clients say, we just don't have time or we don't have the knowledge, and they would like us to do it. We would do it for you. And, it depends on what type of asset it is. If it's, for example, and we'll get into some examples in a minute, like IRAs or life insurance policies, and we would work with your agent and help you transfer those assets.
Okay. All right. Do they just change the name, or do they actually have to transfer it to a different account?
They have to change the name. Whenever you transfer an asset to the trust, what you're doing is you're transferring the asset from the individual owner, for example, your mom, into the name of the trust, which if your mom has capacity, she can actually be the trustee of her trust. So you would transfer it into her name as trustee of her trust.
Okay.
That is how you avoid probate, because when your mom passes away or becomes incapacitated, she no longer owns the asset. The trust does, and the trust doesn't die with her. It continues.
Last question. Are probate fees court costs and lawyer fees?
Absolutely.
Or what are they simply court costs? But whenever they talk about probate, I never did understand exactly what all fees are included in that.
Court costs are cheap, relatively. It's the legal fees, the lawyer fees that are expensive. What the Florida statute says is the general rule, and I'm very general, says that an attorney or the person handling the probate can charge 3% of the value of the probate estate. And it doesn't take long when you start adding the house and other assets in to where that number gets to be pretty large. And so, yeah, it could be pretty expensive.
All right, very good. That's going to wrap up the half hour. Chuck, if you want to hold on through the break and ask any follow-up questions, we can definitely do that. But we're going to break now for news, traffic, and weather. We'll be back. Maybe Chuck has some follow-up questions. If not, we do right here in the studio as we're talking about trust and other legal issues. We'll be back. You're listening to Law 2020, brought to you by the very good friends at the BCN Law Firm, and they have offices in Winter Park, Claremont, Lakeland, and the Villages. You can always reach them. You've heard the commercial 100 times, 855-LAW-2020. You can sing it if you want, 855-LAW, that's 529-2020. We're still on the phone with Chuck. Chuck is calling about a trust, and we've got some really cool stuff going on with Wade to tell people who move to Florida, maybe their kids tell them, hey, how are you going to pass along your assets, Mom and Dad? Hey, we set up a trust. Don't worry about it. Problem is, there's nothing in the trust. It's a piece of paper. So there's legal things you got to do. Most lawyers just leave it at, you tear out the trust, give me a check. But Wade doesn't do that.
No, and that's the problem. They go in, they get it signed, and they think that, they're done. Or they have good intentions. They expect to come back in and they never follow through. And here's where I see this, Rob. Usually mom or dad pass away. And then the kids call me and they say, what do we need to do? And the first thing that, I tell them is bring in a financial statement. Let's get a list of all of the assets and let's walk through it. Hopefully it's going to be fairly simple. And they bring it in and everything looks good. They'll have, most assets in the account. and then they'll have forgotten about a stock certificate, or they would not have reviewed the life insurance policy. And the life insurance policy, instead of having a beneficiary, will have a default beneficiary, which is generally the estate. And there'll be one or two assets out there that have to go through probate. And the problem is, whether it's a small asset, let's say a $10,000 CD or a $100,000 CD, you're going to have to go through an administration. You may be able to go through what's called a summary or a full administration, but you're still going to have to pay someone to walk you through that administration.
And cost money. So get it done ahead of time, right? And the other thing that, Wade, you and I always point out, but it just begs repeating. At the time of someone's passing, there's emotion. And there's so much emotion. That's not the time to find out that something wasn't in the trust.
No, it's not. And, what I tell my clients is nothing has to be done immediately, too. When your mom or dad pass away, spend time with family. I mean, the last thing we need to worry about are the assets the next day. Mm-hmm. Back to one of the Chuck's questions regarding cost. There are filing fees, and we were talking about that 3%. What it says in the statute is an attorney can charge 3% of the value of the probate estate as an ordinary fee, as a fee. Well, that it doesn't take long. $1 million estate is not uncommon nowadays. When you add home values, life insurance, everything that could be done wrong. So you're looking at a $30,000 attorney fee to do something that isn't $30,000 generally worth of work. And so one of the things, and I'm telling all the listeners this, you can negotiate fees when you go in. I keep saying negotiate attorney's fees like you negotiate anything else. While the statute says 3%, sit down with your attorney and say, really, how much time is this going to take you? Mm-hmm. And will you do it for less than 3%? What I do is I give every client the option. You can pay me the 3%, or you can pay me my hourly rate. And a lot of times the hourly rate's a lot cheaper. Pay me what I'm worth, which is my, for my time. You don't have to charge 3%. So go and shop around and make sure you're getting the best value in addition to the best attorney.
Hey, Chuck, did you have a follow-up on your call, my friend?
Yeah, I didn't
quite
understand that one question. So probate fees are lawyer fees and court costs, correct?
That's correct. You have to pay a filing fee with the court. That's an addition to the attorney's fees.
Okay. All right. And it also saves a great deal of time, correct, to settle the estate? In other words, without a trust, don't you have to wait 8 months or 10 months or something like that in Florida?
Without a trust, if you have to go through probate, the average time would be, say it could be from 4 months to 8 months to a year. If you have a trust and all you have to do is a notice of trust, you can wrap your estate up, overnight. It's extremely quick.
Okay. And how many times without a trust do you think you normally have to go to court before a judge?
It depends on the assets. I could have a client that passes away and the only asset in their name is $3,000 in a checking account that they owned. Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to get the money out of the account without going through probate, a summary administration. Or I may have a client that passes away with several $1 million in their name. It really depends on the asset that's involved.
Right, several million with money in checking accounts, CDs, and money mutual funds are really spread across the board, but there's quite a few assets.
There could be. Or it could be, I'll give you an example. Client goes and has an IRA, and their substantial wealth is in their retirement account. Their spouse was the primary beneficiary of the IRA. Spouse predeceased them. They die. There's no contingent beneficiary. And the plan document states that the contingent beneficiary is the estate. Now we've got to open up a probate to be able to get the IRA money out. So it depends on the assets. It depends on how accounts are titled.
I see. So there's not a normal number of times you have to go before a judge?
If I have it done correctly, we're not going to have to go in front of the judge at all. If we do we fund the trust and get your estate set up correctly, I'm going to keep you from having to go in front of a judge.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. If you have questions, Chuck, please give me a call.
Yeah, you can give Wade a call this week. He'd love to talk to you more. 855-LAW-2020. That translates, Chuck, to 855-529-2020. David, that sparked some interest in your park. You're listening to Law 2020 with Attorney Wade Boyette. How can we help you?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. If I put shares of stock into a trust for one of my children and I pass away, who has to pay the capital gains on those shares of stock when they're sold?
If there is capital gain and you've passed away, then your kids would pay the capital gains on those. So the gain's not triggered when you pass away. It's only when your kids ultimately sell the stock and there's actually gain from the time you've passed away until they sell the stock.
Okay, no way to avoid that or reduce it?
So that there's no capital gains. Well, there's what's called a stepped-up basis. So let's say you've passed away and the stock's worth $1. A year later, it's worth $2. When the kids sell the stock, someone's got to pay the capital gains on that dollar.
They do. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the information.
You're welcome. The only way to get around paying the capital gains tax is we can do some charitable trust planning for you so that it's in a tax-exempt entity and you can leave an income stream to your kids. So there's ways of doing it, but not in general trust. When you hear revocable trust or you always hear revocable trust, living trust, they all mean the same things. That's not going to accomplish saving the capital gains.
Let me follow up on that. You touched a real nerve when you talked about this charitable contribution, because we had somebody on here, a financial planner, about 5 or 6 years ago that was talking about using that charitable contribution way to help a charity but still derive some dividends for family members in the future. Is there some kind of a payback on there? Because I think most people think if I give $18,000 to the Tim Foundation, that's just money that's gone to the Tim Foundation. But I guess there are ways that there's some sort of annuity in there or something.
Yeah, that's one of the common strategies that estate planning attorneys use. Let's say I have a piece of real estate I paid $1,000 for, and it's now worth $1 million. And I know that if what I can do is I can transfer that real estate now during my life into this charitable trust. The trust could sell it, not have to pay any capital gains tax, invest 100% of the proceeds, and get an income stream. The person who contributed to property can get an income stream for their life, and when they pass away, they can get an income stream for their kid's life. When ultimately, at the end, though, whatever's left in that trust is going to go to the charity. So you're benefiting your family, plus you're benefiting the charity, and you're doing it by having 100% of the assets work for you instead of the value of the assets after the sale, less taxes.
All right, when we come back, we have a follow-up question from a previous caller, and we want you to be able to pick up the phone and talk to Wade Boyette. Right now, you could call the show at 855-297-9696. We're asking the experts all weekend long, 855-297-9696. You could text us at 21232. I'm Rob Newton. He's Wade Boyette. Tim's behind the glass, and we'll be back right after three big things you need to know. Hey, welcome back. We are talking to Wade Boyette. This is called Law 2020. Let people know that it's on. Share on your Facebook to tune in to Law 2020. Every single Sunday, we get together at 12 o'clock. Yeah, you can kind of do it with your lunch. All right, let's go to Sandra real quick. Sandra, what's your question real fast? We've got about 7 minutes to spend together. We've got a couple of calls and we have a text. So what's going on?
Hi, my mom left. She passed away in May, and before she passed away, she left a trust, and the home that she owns was put on that trust. There's 5 daughters, and she wanted everything to be split equally into the 5 daughters. And I'm actually the executor of the trust. And one of the daughters expressed interest in buying the home, so we allowed her to move in temporarily while she worked with the bank, and now she doesn't want to sign any agreement to rent the house temporarily. She doesn't want to show us proof that she has, she's like in the process of buying the house, and she's saying that she co-owns the house so that nobody can kick her out of there, and that that's her residence now, and we want to sell the house and be able to split it like my mom intended.
I'm assuming all the daughters are adults.
All of them.
Okay.
We're all married except for her.
Okay, and your mom was not married when she passed away?
I'm sorry, she was what?
She was not married, correct?
No, my dad had passed away years
ago.
Well,
you're the trustee, so you have the authority to go sign a listing agreement and sell that house. I mean, you're the one in charge there. And if
Right.
you want, you also are the one who has the authority to evict her if she just doesn't cooperate. You have all five kids are entitled to that asset. And as the trustee, you have a fiduciary obligation to look after not just the one daughter, but all five daughters, so the four additional daughters. So if you needed to get her out, I mean, there are ways to get her out. Now, it's touchy because it's the family dynamics that are involved, because I really
Right.
try to make sure, we keep families together. I don't like,
Right.
going out there bashing families. My job is to help y'all stay together. But we could have a talk with her and tell her legally, she can be forced out, and that we need to sell the house so that all five kids get what, mom wanted them to get.
Exactly.
So just
The one thing that she was claiming is that she was like the co-owner, that like we were all owners, and somebody said, no, that's not. You're beneficiaries, and you have the responsibility to, as a trustee, like you were saying.
You do.
Okay, it's been such a hard thing for me to do because, of course, it's my sister and I love her, but, I have to look out for the rest, of the other sisters and what my mom wanted ultimately, to
Well,
to be done.
sometimes they just need a little nudging, and we can do it very, very carefully, and make sure we still look after everybody's interest and make sure we keep that family dynamic together.
Okay, Sandra, you're probably going to need some further advice and help throughout this process, and you probably want to jot this number down. The BCN Law Firm has offices near you in Winter Park, Claremont, Lakeland, and the Villages, and you can reach them anytime at 855-LAW-2020, 855, that means it's toll-free, of course, 529-2020. All right, very good. Let's go to Cindy. And Cindy, how can we help you?
My question is, if you add somebody to your checking accounts or saving accounts and that type of thing, another signer, can any of their creditors go after your money if they owe anything?
Cindy, answer is yes. I see this. Here's where I see it happen a lot, Cindy, is usually the account's been garnished, and someone comes in and says, they're garnishing my account, the creditor of the person who's on my account, and it's not their money, it's my money. The bank doesn't have a right to garnish it. That may be the case, and we may be able to get the money put back in the account, but the hoops you have to jump through are just crazy. It costs a lot of money. I would be very cautious and very careful before you add anyone else's name to your account. If you want someone to have the ability to access your account in the case of an emergency, or if you need that, let's just have a power of attorney prepared, giving them the authority if necessary. But let's not add them to your account.
Is there something?
I got you. Okay.
Is there something called pay upon death or something like that?
Oh yeah, that's you can have a POD account or a TOD account, and that's just going to control where the money goes when you pass away. But a lot of people want to add someone's name to the account so that they can have access during life.
Oh.
And they don't know, they're just trying to make things simple.
Yeah.
If it's in joint names, it'll pass to my, joint owner at death. It can also cause you a lot of grief while you're alive. So there's always ways of accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish. Let's just do what we need to do in your best interest.
Okay, and Cindy, if you have a follow-up, again, I offer the number, 855-LAW-2020. That's 855-529-2020. Friendly people, community supporters, just your neighbors out there helping you out with offices in Claremont, the Villages, Lakeland, and Winter Park. Let's get to David with a final follow-up call. That'll probably run us out of time, buddy, but go ahead.
Quick question. If I have shares of stock in a Roth IRA and I pass away and that Roth IRA goes to my children as part of the estate, are there taxes on the capital gains when those shares are sold?
No, they'll be sold inside the Roth IRA, and there will be no taxes on that.
So that may be a good way to leave shares of stock to children.
It's great. Just name them the beneficiary of your Roth.
Great. All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, David.
Okay, David. Boy, this is it just seems like that's the topic of the day. We really didn't have an idea when you came in here exactly what we were going to cover.
Right.
A lot of things that happened at the law firm this past week. And if somebody wants to set up an appointment with you, because I know that you're also in the Claremont office a lot, you're in the Villages office, so can they just call and try to set up a time when you're going to be closer to them?
Absolutely. Just call the office. Call the 855-LAW-2020 or 352-394-2103. One thing is I love meeting with clients. I still, while I'm active and I'm very busy, I meet with usually 3 to 4 clients a day because I generally enjoy doing that. And it's nice sitting down, getting to know the clients. Most of the clients become friends. You get to know their families, and having been doing this, for now over 20 years, I've got 300 or 400 little grandmothers out there who I love to see every other week, once a month. It's nice. Is
that ever an in-home consultation?
It is. There are times where, for example, the caller earlier who had an 85-year-old,
right?
I would be more than happy to go to their house if that's necessary. What our job is to look after our client and do what's necessary so that we can do a good job for them.
All right, very good. Wade, thank you so much for giving of your time on this beautiful afternoon. I know you'd rather be outside playing around.
I will be there shortly.
All right, very good. Folks, thank you for hanging with us. And we're going to have Talon Wealth Management come up next right here and talk to you about your financial plan and what you're going to be doing the rest of your life. We're going to take a break, and I'll see you in a few hours with Dr. Klein.